Hi, and welcome to the Breakthrough Emotional Eating podcast. My name is Kristen Jones, and thank you so much for joining me this week. This week, we are going to talk about something that I think is paramount to addressing emotional eating and addressing weight gain in general. I am a firm believer that, and people I've been speaking to this week have been hearing this from me, is I am a firm believer that when we are carrying around extra weight, when the weight is merely a symptom, it is a symptom of other things that are going on with us. It's a symptom of unresolved issues, things that are going on much deeper at a much deeper level. And oftentimes that can be a result of a traumatic incident, a situation that happened in your life, whether it happened 20 minutes ago or it happened 65 years ago. There are events that happen in all of our lives that are unpleasant. And we can either choose to be defined by those incidents, or we can choose to rise above them. And we can choose to take steps to get to a place where we are okay with where they are, and we can keep them where they need to be, which is in our past. So the three things that you are going to learn on this podcast today is we're going to talk about why events from your past are playing havoc on your present. And they are also playing havoc on your ability to lose weight, keep it off, all the things. Secondly, you're going to learn the real truths about difficult events in your past and how to move forward from them. And lastly, what you need to do to change your thoughts and those thoughts that are holding you back from the greatness and from an amazing life. So we're going to talk about what you need to do to change those thoughts. Now, if you're listening on the podcast and you're not a member of the Facebook community, please join the community. Amazing group of people all working towards addressing issues of emotional eating as well as losing weight, but even more so digging deep into who we really are, remembering who we really are, and embracing and loving that person exactly as they are right now, because we know change does not happen when it comes from a place of hate. It only comes from love. So we have to accept and love exactly where we are right now in order to make any changes in our lives. So why events from your past are playing havoc on your present. So I want to review some basic beliefs and basic truths about thoughts. So thoughts that you have are created in your brain, and repetitious or repetitive thoughts that keep coming back are doing that because you keep thinking them. So I know many people will say, well, I just don't know why I can't let this go. And that's a really, really common thing. I don't know why I can't let this go. Well, you can't let it go because your brain thinks, because for the last 25, 30, 40 years, all you've thought about is that one argument, that one incident, that person passing away, that, incident of physical, verbal, or sexual abuse. That thought keeps coming up because you keep thinking it, because our brain will deliver to us thoughts that are repetitious and thoughts that your brain thinks, she keeps thinking it, must be something she wants to think more about. And so your brain will keep delivering those thoughts to you. And so is that like the end result? Is that just like, do we just like, okay, end the podcast? That's the way it is? No, our brain is incredibly malleable. Our brain can be changed. Brain neuroplasticity is all the rage. We absolutely can change our thoughts, but that takes focused effort and commitment. We'll be talking about what that looks like as the podcast goes on. But in a nutshell, the thought that you don't want to have, stop thinking it. And I know that seems so like, oh, like it was only that easy. Y'all, it is. It is. And we'll talk about what that looks like. Um, as we know, because we study this in the group, that your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions give you the results that you either want or don't want in your life. And the cool part is you get to make that decision. You get to decide, what is it that I want to have in my life? And if those thoughts are not in alignment, you get to choose your thoughts. Something else to remember, all thoughts are optional. Just because a thought comes into your head, you don't have to think it, you don't have to believe it, and you don't have to keep it around. You get to choose. So that's pretty cool. So the process for kind of understanding your thoughts is you need to start noticing what you're thinking. Notice what you're thinking. Notice how your thinking creates your feelings, your actions, and your results. You then get to decide, do I want to change? Do I not like what's happening in my life? Do I not like the result that I'm getting? And if I don't like the result that I'm getting, okay, let's make the decision to change. And then you get to decide what you want your result to be. Every single one of us gets to decide. If you're listening to my voice and your life is not where you want it, you get to decide. It's not waiting for somebody outside of you to make the decision. It's not waiting for that job to come through, or that person to ask you on a date, or that your kids to move out. Now all my life is going to be so much better. You get to decide right now, what's the result that you want? What do you want to have in your life? And then you get to go about making the changes that need to happen. And they always start with your thoughts. And you then get to ask yourself, well, what do I need to start doing, feeling, and thinking in order to get those results? And the first thing we need to start looking at is our thinking, is our thoughts, because our thoughts are going to drive everything. Now, a few things that we need to know about events, situations, circumstances is any event that has happened in the past, it's over. It's over and you can't change it. When you feel like something upsets you from your past, it is not the event that is upsetting you. It is your thoughts about the event, because the event is done. It can't have any power over you unless you give it the power by thinking about it, and thinking in a way that makes you feel horrible. We get a choice every single moment of every single day to decide, how do I want to think about anything that's happened to me? You get to decide. Again, it is not the event itself that is creating the emotions that you feel. It is your thinking about it. And that is absolutely paramount to understand. So, how do you make the pain stop? One, you need to stop inviting your past into your present. You need to, and I'm not saying in any way that when something dramatic happens, when something difficult, traumatic, uncomfortable, horrible happens, I am not saying that you just like, oh, I'm going to put that out of my head. I'm never going to think about it. Absolutely not. You need to address, you need to process, you need to give yourself time to grieve. And then you need to decide to not bring it and make it your present, and then make it your future. I absolutely do not. I'm not saying in any way that we do not seek, licensed therapists, therapists, counselors, coaches, whatever it is. It's not that we don't seek that out. We seek that support out 100% to allow you to be able to process it and not ignore it and not bury it and not say, oh, if I just don't think about it, it won't happen. It really didn't happen. Your thoughts will always come back. So we get that choice. So when I was 28, And I thought that I had met the man that I was going to marry and I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. And that's not how things went. And I fell into probably the darkest time in my life, far and away, darkest time in my life. It was probably almost a 2-year span from when I was about 28 to probably almost 30. And it still took me a long time, even past that. But for those 2 years, I had a very, very difficult time. And all I kept doing was bringing up the fact that my life hadn't worked out. This person hadn't chosen me. This person hadn't decided that I was the person they were going to be with. And I kept bringing it up, and that was who I was. That became my identity. Is I was the person who was left. I was the person who was left behind, and I was going to be that single person for the rest of my life, and no one was ever going to love me. And I can remember almost proudly, like telling people about the breakup and about some things that had happened. And I would say like, oh my gosh, it feels like it just happened. Well, yeah, because I was bringing it to my present. And finally, I got to the point where I was like, why on earth are you doing this? Like, what is the purpose and what are you getting out of this? And it was to remain a victim, to remain feeling, and I never had to grow up. I never had to move on. I could just stay in that spot and be miserable. And then I never had to put myself out there. I never had to risk anything. And I remember a friend of mine having a very brutal conversation with me. And she just said, as only friends can do, I'm really tired of hearing about this. And I'm tired about you. I'm tired of you being sad. So you need to make some decisions. Are you going to move on from this? And what are you going to do? And it was a tough conversation, but it was so needed and so necessary. And it catapulted me to decide that, like, I was not going to wait for anyone to come and marry me, to find me, to save me, to make my life better. It was going to be my responsibility, and I was going to do it. And that was when the trajectory of my life completely changed. Completely. I went back to school. I got, I got a dual teaching credential. I got an amazing job. I, got my master's degree. I mean, all of these things that I did would not have happened if I had stayed in that place of, I'm going to keep thinking about this and keep feeling sorry for myself, and maybe it'll change someday. It wasn't going to, until I decided that I was not going to be the victim, and I was not going to stay in that place. All right. Part 2, number 2, the real truth about difficult events in your past and how to move forward from them. So again, I don't want to downplay anyone's own personal life, journey, trauma, incidents, whatever it is, whatever you've gone through, absolutely valuable, absolutely real, absolutely yours. But you can decide if you want to believe that because something has happened to you, that you are damaged, broken, or not worthy of love. You get to decide. It is your choice. You get to decide not to believe in the shame of an event. There is always, more often than not, shame associated with so many things that have happened in our lives. And we get to decide. But because you are a human being on this planet, and as a result of that, you are fabulous, amazing, and glorious. Exactly as you are right now, exactly as you were before the event happened, and exactly as you are after whatever event happened to you. You have not changed, regardless of what has happened to you. No one can take away your perfection. your essence of who you are. It's always going to be yours, and it's always going to be pure, and it's always going to be innocent. It is part of being a human being on this planet. A horrible experience does not have the power to damage who you are at your core unless you believe it can and you choose to live your life as though that incident, that event does make you that person. You get to decide that right here, right now. You get to decide, do you want that event to define who you are and to allow you to feel like you to have the power over you to damage who you are? Because the reality is your soul is untouched. It can't be touched by anything outside, any situation, any event. It cannot be touched unless you allow it to. If you allow it to be touched by you believing what has been told of you, what has been told about whatever the incident was that happened to you, you've probably been told some things about that. And if you choose to believe that, then yes, absolutely, you're going to feel that way. People have the power to hurt us physically, emotionally, especially as children and also as adults, but they can't be given the power and the control to dictate how our lives go. When we're kids, we don't have a lot of choices when it comes to believing or understanding when things happen to us. We have to kind of go along with it because frankly, our brains are not developed enough to be able to understand that, to be able to understand the complexities of relationships and life situations. But we do, as adults, we do get to make that decision. And so there can be a lot of blame. There can be a lot of shame that is put upon us based upon these incidences. But no one and no one thing can make you believe that that is the truth about you unless you choose to do that. That is not your truth. It is not who you are. But again, it gets to be your choice. So as an adult, each one of us gets to choose what we want to believe about ourselves. And it is time for everyone to start believing in your goodness, in your innocence, and your abilities. We get to make the choice about what we believe about ourselves every single moment of every single day. You have the choice to blame yourself and to believe your perpetrator, to believe the people who have hurt you. Or you can believe the truth. And the truth is that your soul is perfect and it will remain untouched by any harm unless you allow it. No one can take your dignity, hope, self-love, or joy without your permission. And it's time for you to say no to letting those thoughts back in and have control of how you move forward with your life. You get to choose to end it right now as you're listening to my voice, and start seeing yourself in a way that you have always been and you will always be. You get to have that choice right now. And I truly hope that you take that. Now, what do we need to do to change these thought patterns? These thoughts that keep coming back, that keep replaying, that keep being there over and over. Well, again, thoughts come because there's lots of repetition. And these thoughts are going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back because your brain thinks you want to hear this. So starting today, each time that thought, whatever that thought is for you, whatever that personal thought is about whatever that incident is, comes back to you and comes back into your head, it is your job to tell your brain, no, we aren't thinking about that. That is not who I am. It is not my truth. And I am not going to believe anything other than who I am as an amazing person, as being totally capable and totally worthy of love. This is where positive affirmations come in, and you reminding yourself on a daily and sometimes hourly, sometimes minute by minute, you get to decide to how you want to believe in yourself, about yourself, and what you want in your life. Now, if this is something that you would like more help with and you feel like you're ready to start this process, in the comments for my people who are watching in the group, I want you just to say, I'm ready. I'm ready. If you are ready to let the past be the past and not define who you are now, and how this will absolutely change how you move forward when it comes to your working on your emotional eating and your weight loss, absolutely it will change if you can and if you choose, because I don't say if you can, because you can. If you choose to let go of what is holding you back and you choose to honor your absolute perfection, and please type in I'm ready, and we can talk a little bit more about what that would look like. But absolutely every single person who's listening to this podcast, and if you're watching in the group, everyone has the opportunity to do this right now, right now. And I would strongly, strongly encourage you to really start to think about what is it that you want in your life? What do you want to do to go about making that happen? But first, we need to start working on our thoughts about ourselves, and our thoughts about past incidents need to stay in the past. All right, y'all. Not usually my lighthearted, funny, entertaining podcast, but I figured this is something that I continue to hear about, and it's so close to my heart, and it's so important that everyone hear this, everyone understand this, everyone know that there is such an ability to be able to move forward and really address everything that you need to be addressing. But we have to leave some things, we have to leave some thoughts in the past. We have to leave them where they need to be and not let them hurt us any longer and not let them hold us back. All right. Have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me if you're listening to this on the podcast. And I will see you all in the group. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Take care, y'all.